Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Podcast, formerly Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Harris, and today I'm talking to health coach and author Cheryl Meyer. I've been talking to Cheryl on and off for the last 5 years and watched her go from strength to strength, both as an author of many awards for her books and also as an expert in health and, as she calls it, eating the rainbow. I wanted to catch up with her and see how she's getting on. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you for coming back to talk to me on Book Talk Podcast.
Hello, Claire. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. So, how have you been, Cheryl? Tell us how you started out on this journey of yours.
Well, I'm doing great. It's almost 10 years ago now. I had my own jewelry business. I was a solopreneur, and I woke up one morning and couldn't get out of bed because everything hurt. And my entire world is completely different today than what it was 10 years ago. I was not doing anything for self-care. I was eating on the run, and I was eating as fast as I was working. So I'd get home and I would put whatever I could find in my mouth. It wasn't healthy. I was not dealing with my stress. Friends were starting to pull me aside and say, you got to do something. Stress accumulates. But, it just went through my head very quickly. And then I had no choice but to pay attention to it because I couldn't function.
Yeah, your body tells you
Could have
what.
bankrupted me. So
Yeah, your body tells you, doesn't it? It says to you, "Hang on a minute, you got to stop."
yeah, you have to take care of you. And
Yeah,
if you don't take care of you, nothing else you do matters because health is wealth. If you don't have health, you don't have anything. That was my big
absolutely,
lesson from that.
absolutely. I mean, you've obviously got a great passion for your subject, but what made you decide to write your first book? It feels good to feel good.
Well, I had a doctor who had no clue what was wrong with me. And so
Mm,
she said, I'm going to give you steroids, but there's nothing wrong with you. Go seek mental therapy. I said, why would I take steroids if there's nothing wrong with me? So I
exactly.
said, I'm going to go find it. And she said, well, good luck. You'll be back. And I said, no, I probably won't. And I dug in and I was lucky. I tripped into what's called the functional medical community,
Mm,
which is a new branch of real medicine. My doctor went to Yale Medical School, but I tripped into that. They were doing 19 different symposiums with multiple doctors, and I started listening to them and taking notes. And they all became functional because their regular medical background did not help them cure themselves when they got into trouble. And that caught my attention. So I was writing down the threads. I probably had toxic overload. I had probably toppled over the wall with toxic overload. I knew I had too much stress. And when I was tested, the only thing that showed up was I was almost out of cortisol. But the allopathic doctor, I was saying, what's to do? You're not diseased yet. Well, it was important that we deal with it then. So I immediately started taking yoga and doing mind exercises and breathing exercises to bring my stress down and my cortisol up. And it ended up that it wasn't that difficult to bring my cortisol back up. I had no DHEA, which feeds the cortisol in your body. So I bought a DHEA spray on Amazon that my doctor recommended to me. And that brought the DHEA up. So it brought my cortisol back to snuff. And then I learned how to keep my stress under control. We all have stress, but
mm.
when it becomes chronic, then it becomes a huge issue. So I learned how to breathe, which is my number one most favorite exercise to do. I do it every morning at 10 and at 2 so that I take the top off my stress before it becomes problematic. And I actually published a little stress desktop book that you can keep on your desk that has all kinds of little exercises that don't take any more than 2 or 3 minutes so that you can just stop, take a quick break. One is as easy as standing next to your chair and bouncing so that everything in your body jiggles. And that lets the top off your stress. And you can actually feel the energy go through your body. You think better, you work better.
Mm,
So that was an important part of what I did.
mm,
And as I researched, I started digging into all the toxins in my life. And because I've always been very sensitive to products, and there's
mm.
a giant database in the sky here in the US called EWG, the Environmental Working Group.org, and they have thousands of items where they have rated them from 1 to 10 for toxicity. I looked up everything in my life and then traded it out for things that were less toxic.
Good for you.
And I could start to feel the difference. And I was getting into conversations with women everywhere I went who were in the same situation I had been in with my doctor. They had a doctor who had no clue what was wrong with them. They didn't know what to do. They were frustrated. They were lonely. They felt lousy. And so I thought, when I get through this myself, I'm going to write my book so that I can help other people with all this research I have done. And essentially, it took me 5 years to come back to a no pain existence. I do have autoimmune disease that was verified by my functional doctor. I have all the markers, but not to have pain is huge. And I'm very cautious to stay away from things that would trigger me to go back to my pain life with the autoimmune, but I do a lot of things to keep it away. And when you start to feel good, you make sure you maintain it. And that's why I called the book, It Feels Good to Feel Good. I am not willing to give that up.
So tell us about the book then. Give us a brief synopsis, if you wouldn't mind.
So the first book is really my journey from somebody who was a jeweler, who knew nothing about health, who knew really nothing about doing self-care, and all the puzzle pieces that I found along the way, spoken out like a layman to other people who could use the information. And so I talked about, why is it that I started with stress? Why then did I go to food? What were GMOs? I had no idea what GMOs were. Why was it important to eat organic food? And then I went into cosmetics. Cosmetics in the United States are not regulated except by the cosmetic company themselves.
Oh my
And the
goodness.
first thing I looked up was my face makeup. It was a 9 on a 10-point scale. I literally was poisoning myself directly through my skin. Got my attention. So then I started looking into smells. Perfumes poison us. All of those things we spray in the air, whether it takes the nasty smell out of the air or puts pretty things into the air, that all poisons us through our lungs. There are toxins everywhere. Cleaning supplies are god awful. So I started looking for cleaner and cleaner things. And I go category by category. What did I research? What did I find? And what did I end up using? Not that I care that anybody makes the same decisions that I do, but I wanted to give everybody a running start so that if they were in my situation, they could get things replaced quickly so that they could start to regain their health.
You've received some great feedback for It Feels Good to Feel Good, including if you want to truly feel better, clean up. Just one tip from Cheryl's book will change your life. She's written the ultimate source for getting well through detoxification. Well, of course, it goes without saying you deserve to live a happy and healthy life, Cheryl. But no matter what, there are some people that just don't believe that toxins are causing their health issues. How would you go about changing their minds?
That was actually an interesting thing. I have a BA from Berkeley in English, so writing the book was right up my alley. But I didn't think people would believe I did 5 years of research on health. So I went back to coaching school to learn to be a health coach.
No.
And the first thing I got out there, I wanted everybody to know I was really excited. I wanted to inspire the world, and people were not willing to change. So what I have learned is they have to hear something 17 times before they begin to accept it as truth. That's a real statistic. And at first that really discouraged me. And somebody looked at me at a meeting that I went to and said, but Cheryl, your job is not to hear it for them. Your job is to put it out there. So keep putting it out there, because there are going to be people who hear it that need to hear it at that moment. So that's what I did. Between my books, I had a podcast for 3 years where I was international. It was in 70 countries. I talked either as a solo podcaster, or I interviewed other people who got sick like I did and came back to wellness. I did everything I could do so that everyone could hear my message in all different forms, so that they would begin to accept that if they wanted to live old and thrive, they were going to have to change their lifestyle habits.
Exactly. And the first sentence in the description of your second book, Feeling Good, Living Low Toxin and Community in Everyday Life, is where is the magic pill in the time of the pandemic? You go on to say, boost your immune system today so that you and your family have a healthy defense system and feel great. Now, I have to ask, is that simple? Is it that simple? Sorry, is it that simple?
Believe it or not, it is that simple. There's a new study that just came out that 83% of Americans, and a lot of other countries like England use American products, 83% of us are metabolically unfit, and it is directly attributed to the standard American diet, all the processed and the fast food that we eat here. And 70% of us are overweight or obese, and that's directly attributed to the food. So I have a list of 12 pillars of health. Food is not the only thing, but for God's sake, start with food, because you need quality building supplies. And if you aren't eating real food of the rainbow, that's organic from a farm as close to you as possible, you aren't giving your body anything to rebuild with. I actually did a 3 Little Pig blog on my website. You want to build the straw house, the stick house, or the brick house. The only way to build the brick house is to eat real food. And 70% of what you eat should be fruits and vegetables.
So the foods we eat affect our ability to remain healthy. What kind of food should we avoid? Well, processed food, I know that. And what kind should we eat? We can't surely just can't eat just fruit and vegetables.
Well, no, it's food quality that matters.
Right.
Number one, if you pick up a box and you don't know what an ingredient is, or you can't pronounce it, you put the box back. Because if you don't know what it is, your body doesn't know what it is either, and it can't use it. And that's the majority of what's in. And processed food is not just what comes in a box. It's also what's frozen in your freezer. It has all the same chemicals. And here in the United States, restaurants now are buying their food in little baggies and then arranging it on the plate and zapping it. So even when you go out to eat, you're getting all those nasty chemicals. Big food does not care if you're healthy. They care if they make money. So what they've done is they have created food-like stuff that acts like food, but doesn't give you any nutrition like food. So you've got to start eating the real thing. And then you adopt the other habits, which are on my list, which are sleep and stress. And
well, it's not just the processed loaded with sugar foods we should avoid. Stress, as you said, plays a huge part as well, doesn't it?
it does, because if you get too low in cortisol and you have too much stress, that aggravates your gut bacteria and allows the bad bacteria to grow. So there's a phrase, you are what you eat. Well, you're not only what you eat, your gut bacteria are what you eat. And your gut bacteria are important because I've now discovered there's a vagus nerve that goes directly from your gut to your brain that impacts all your feel-good hormones and your brain and your thinking and your learning ability and your moods. Depression is now becoming linked directly to eating processed and fast foods instead of eating real food. So it really is crucial that you start eating real food. And I recommend to my clients 70% of what they put in their body is fruits and vegetables, and then they add quality protein. And quality protein is animals who eat their own specific diet instead of GMO food, which again is full of chemicals and poison.
Oh, we can't avoid stress, so surely there has to be a way of dealing with it. You were mentioning before about breathing exercises, and I've tried those. I was trying those today, and they really help.
I know they work because I drive in Los Angeles traffic to see my functional doctor, and she's an hour away. And so I do the Dr. Weil 478 breathing exercise all the way out there, because I used to get there and I was all rattled from being in traffic. I now have the best blood pressure and the lowest pulse of any patient she sees because it keeps me calm. And what it does is it resets your parasympathetic nervous system. It's such a simple thing to do. And it has so many health benefits. It's amazing.
Can you explain what it is to the listeners?
Yeah, and you can, anybody who has YouTube on their internet can look him up. He was the first integrative doctor, and you can learn to breathe it right with him. You breathe in for 4, you hold it for 7, and then you whoosh it out of your mouth for 8 with your tongue up against your teeth. And you do that 4 times. It takes 3 minutes, and that takes all the top off of your chronic stress and reduces your blood pressure and all the things that are causing havoc in your body from that stress. And that stress is interrupting your gut. So it's important that you do it every day so that you don't get into that situation.
One of the chapters in the book is titled The Benefits of Gratitude. What are the benefits and what does gratitude have to do with health?
Well, number one, we'll start with the simple things. Who doesn't want to know that you appreciate them? It improves all your relationships if
Yeah.
you express your gratitude to the people in your life, to your employees, to your employers, to your customers, everybody. But I start out my day with gratitude because it sets my mind on a positive mode so that I'm not thinking about what didn't happen or that's upset me. I'm thinking about all the good that I appreciate. And then energy draws in energy. So if I'm thinking positive thoughts, I'm pulling in positive experiences. University of California at Berkeley just did a huge study that it improves your immune system, it lowers your blood pressure, it
Mm.
allows you to think better. There's all kinds of benefits from practicing gratitude. And that's another thing that's very simple to just add to your morning routine
Yeah,
so that you start your day off on a positive note.
exactly, exactly. Healthy children in the 21st century includes telling them where food comes from. Why is that?
I have a big concern about children, and I have a whole section in my second book about how to raise healthy children because
Chicken?
chicken, that's chicken. 53% of our kids in the United States have chronic illness. I find that unacceptable.
Yeah.
So I didn't have children, but I am a proud auntie. And I now have grandchildren with my second husband. I want them to grow up healthy. So kids have all kinds of misconceptions about food because we've moved too far away from the farm. They think avocados are laid by animals. They thought chocolate milk came from chocolate cows. The statistics are frightening. So my
Yeah.
suggestion is, as a kid, I lived in Pennsylvania. We used to go out to Amish farms. I knew how food was grown. We used to go pick strawberries. I knew where the cattle came from, and I
Mm.
had a better appreciation. And a lot of parents will stop me and say, how do I get my kids to eat healthy food? The number one thing you can do is they will mimic you. So
Mm.
if you eat healthy food, they will eat healthy food. Take them grocery shopping with you. Take them to the farmer's market. Involve them in talking to the farmer. Let them know where their food comes from. Let them start a little garden. Take the tops off of carrots and grow new tops. There's all kinds of vegetables that you can even grow in the windowsill. Get your kids involved in food so that there's a better appreciation of it. And then show gratitude around the table and eat together at night
Mhm.
and be the example of healthy eating for your family.
Well said. Well said. Bugs and creepy crawlers. Personally, I can't bear the thought of killing anything, no matter how many legs it has. However, having them in our homes is unpleasant. But how do you get rid of them without using pesticides, which are loaded with harmful chemicals?
I was really lucky because as I was writing the book, I had a caretaker for my mother who would go wild with the raid can. And I hated it because I knew that that poison was going to interfere with my mother, our air, everything. I was lucky enough to be at the University of New Mexico, and he's known as Richard the Bug Man. And he sent me all of his notes on how to deal with bugs without poisons. Some of
Mm,
it's amusing. With roaches, what you do is you put down a lid with beer in it, and they get in the beer and they drown themselves.
right.
I had roaches once. I had a dream that I opened up my front door and only roaches fell out. They were multiplying so quickly. What a great way to get rid of them without any kind of poison. And I have pets. I don't want poison around my pets. For
No.
ants, he taught me to use deciduous dirt. But you can also use things like cinnamon and lemongrass because different kinds of ants respond to different things.
Mm,
Silverfish, you just put a jar out with some flour in the bottom of it, and you put masking tape on the outside so they can climb up. They fall in the jar, chibing, chibang, they're gone. There's all kinds of easy ways to take care of bugs that you wouldn't imagine. And anything that says sides, whether it's sprayed on your food like pesticides or herbicides, or it's sprayed out of a can to kill bugs, sides kill. That's what sides means. And you
yeah,
don't want to use that in your home.
exactly. Exactly. There's something that always irritates me. Pet vaccines, a huge amount of money for something that is potentially harmful and perhaps unnecessary. But kennels, especially here in the UK, won't take an animal in unless there's proof of vaccinations. What are your thoughts on this?
I actually wrote another whole section in my second book on pets because while I was busy researching, for me, all three of my cats died way before their time. My
Oh,
cats always made it into their 20s. These three died at 12, 14, and 16. And it occurred to me they were living in a toxic soup just like I was.
yeah.
So I started studying it, and that's why I added the chapter. Vaccines, I don't tell people whether they should or shouldn't get vaccines, whether it's for their child or for their pet, because the responsibility is theirs and what happens, the circumstances are theirs. But this
Mm,
is what I learned about animals. Animals get the same size vaccination, whether they're this big, tiny, or they're humongous. They're a Marmaduke dog. It's the same size shot. And
uh,
that's a problem. So you need to discuss that with your vet. There is a whole branch of veterinary medicine called holistic veterinary medicine. Those are the functional doctors of the animal world. If you can find one, they'll do a holistic approach first, and
mm,
then they will do the pills and the drugs and all of that second. If your dog has um, had a vaccination and they're demanding that he gets another one within a certain period of time, he can be tested by something called, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, a teeter, that will tell you whether he needs that shot or not, because he may have plenty of that
mm,
protection in his body and not need the shot. And there's a doctor that actually, I mentioned him in the book and how to get a hold of him. He sends out a kit for well under $100 so that you can find out whether your pet needs to get that another vaccination. There's even a vet in Los Angeles that's doing sensitivity tests for dogs. So if your dog has a lot of allergy issues with his skin, you need to
mm,
find out what's causing that instead of giving him steroids. You don't want to give your animal any more pharmaceuticals than you want to take yourself if you can help it. So look for the holistic solution first. You might need medication. Medication mitigates the problem, but it doesn't cure anything. So
mm.
try to find the holistic solution. And in looking for skincare products, I found a line where she got cancer and everything bothered her. She and her husband quit their high powered Silicon Valley jobs and created a skin line, and they're crazy about their dogs. So I'll be darned, they created a dog skin line. And I understand that I have cats, but I understand their dog line is absolutely miraculous in terms of how it helps the dog's body.
You say health must start with healthy habits. Can you give an example of the three most important, please?
Well, in my opinion, ground level is you got to change your food. You have to upgrade your food to be organic. And it's important that you eat all the colors of the rainbow, because there's something magical that happens when they get together in your body and they
Mm,
party and they create health because they're all in there together. And Americans, I think the one color that they eat the most of is 65% of the people here are not eating it. So eat all the colors and eat them close together and keep track of it so that you know you're eating them all. And then
mm,
you get, when I started studying, there were 5,000 phytonutrients. Now they think there's 100,000, and they're just beginning to find out what these things are that the plant creates, not for us, but for itself, but that
mm.
have all kinds of health benefits for us. And it's really part of the magic of nature and the universe. And we're not harnessing what the plant kingdom has to offer us. And you can get it if you start buying close to the farm and eating all the colors together. It's important. Other than that, the stress, getting 7 hours of sleep is important. Getting out into nature and breathing in fresh air and enjoying the beauty of it and having that calm you. Doing some kind of mindful exercise every day to get quiet so that your creative thoughts can flourish in your brain. There are several things you can do, and most of them come from a group called the Blue Zone Group, which was a National Geographic study done on the healthiest people and populations in the world. And they've come up with the 12 steps to health. And believe it or not, number one is surround yourself with like-minded people, because
Mm.
community is the number one most important thing to health.
You also say, try my tips for 90 days and feel the difference. What is the first difference that readers can expect to feel?
If you take my class with me where you do it on your own and you ditch sugar and what I call the crap, carbonated, refined, artificial, and processed. If you will commit to doing that for 90 days, doesn't even take that long, and you talk to your body every morning when you get up, you'll be shocked at how smart your body is, and it will start to vote and say, whoa, I'm starting to feel better. I believe most Americans are running around feeling lousy and they haven't even slowed down long enough to pay attention to it. If you start eating real food and you go inside and get quiet and listen, your body will start to tell you. There's a huge difference when you start eating real food. And it really only takes the 4 weeks of my class, but in 3 months, you are so into eating healthy, you're not willing to give it up for anything.
I see you're already receiving wonderful reviews of feeling good, living low toxin in community and everyday life, including a treasure trove of essential information. This book has so many great tips, but I especially enjoyed the chapter on eating healthy out in restaurants. Author Cheryl Meyer has done it again. She has given us another great reference book for living low toxin. I love her warm writing style. It's just like having a conversation with her. That's wonderful. So finally, Cheryl, I have to ask you, where can Book Talk podcast listeners purchase It Feels Good to Feel Good and Feeling Good Living Low Toxin in Community? Where can they buy your books?
You can buy my books on Amazon, and both of my main books are there. Together, they have won 24 awards. People tell me they keep it on their bedstead and they refer to it all the time as their encyclopedia for healthy suggestions that they can control themselves. So go to Amazon. I have my own little Cheryl Meyer page, and my 2 main books are there. And then I have a gratitude of victory journal, because as women, I think we have wins and we never stop long enough to give ourselves credit for them. So I'm encouraging women to write it down. And there's also room in there for you to write down your gratitude for the day. And then I have my little stress book for you to keep on your desk with my 2-minute exercises, so you never get so low in cortisol like I did that I was almost to Addison's disease.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. That was so interesting. Good luck for the future. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk podcast. Lovely to speak to you, Cheryl.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I just said it's lovely to speak to you, and thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always wonderful to see and talk to you.
Thank
Always.
you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.